This might be your favorite episode in a while. One, it's going to be me and you next 2 episodes at least. This and Night of the Seven Kingdoms on Sunday.
Coming
And
up.
once we start the podcast, I have some really exciting stuff for you. So looking forward to it.
Oh, geez, the way you say that sounds like it might not be that exciting, but it might be.
We will see. Welcome to this episode of the Prestige-ish Media Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lake, and with me is someone podcasting behind the shrubs like a civilized pervert. It's Dan McNair. Dan, how are you this evening?
As our friend from Philly famously said, shut the f up. I'm trying to be a better person.
Dan, got some exciting news. We're going to talk about this episode of Fallout. It's season 2, episode 5, The Wrangler. Like me, Dan, I'm all about the foreplay. So to warm you up, I have prepared one of your favorite games on the podcast.
Oh, Christ.
It's Deathclaw Facts. I'm going to give you a series of Deathclaw Facts, and you have to tell me if they are true or false. Your first set of Deathclaw Facts is they are actually amphibious. Is this true or false?
I'm going to go true.
It is false. They are reptiles. So we're off to a good
Same
start.
thing, though.
The Russian government was the first to experiment with death claws before their fall. The U.S. stole the technology and first used it in Alaska. True or false, Dan?
It sounds like a true, but I'm going to go false.
It is false, of course. It was an evil creation of the U.S. government, of course. Couldn't be anybody else but us. A chameleon is one of the primary reptiles used to create death claws. True or false?
I haven't seen any death claws thus far on my board that have exhibited any chameleon-like qualities. So I'm going to say false.
It is true. It's a Jackson's chameleon, which is a horned chameleon that it is one of its DNA bases. All death claws have sentient intelligence, Dan. Is this true or false?
I'm not sure I even know what that means because I do not have sentient intelligence.
Okay.
So I'm going to go true.
Okay, it is actually false, but
What am I, 1 for 4?
I think so. A certain group, however, became some of the first sentient non-human intelligence, but they were all exterminated and killed. So tough times for those sentient death claws. Dan, death claws are tripedal. True or false?
Bipedal, meaning they have 3 peds.
2 legs
I thought
and
they
an
were
arm.
bipedal. They just stand on their hind legs.
Okay, that is true. I was trying to go with a wiener joke there, but they are bipedal.
I mean, if it's big enough.
That's what I'm saying. Death claws, where's the third horn? You know, the Jackson chameleons, I'm pretty sure, have 3. Death claws are pack animals. True or false, Dan?
Oh, man. They strike me as sole predators. So I'm going to say false.
And it is true. Two more death claw facts to go. A death claw egg weighs 12 pounds. Is this true or not?
You're probably going to screw me over with, no, it's 11.9, but I'm going to say true.
It is true. I was hoping we could maybe get your best Jonathan Lipnicki on this, but is the human head...
human head weighs 8 pounds.
There you go. There you go. One more. Male death claws with large horns are not preferred by female death claws. True or false?
Man, why didn't I read up on death claws in my Encyclopedia Britannica before coming on this podcast? But I think that's false. I think chicks dig the horns.
It is false. Like you, the female death claws are size queens. So we're 3 of 9, I think, there. So you came on strong at the end, as they say.
So did death claws.
Better or worse than Spider Facts for you?
Man, considering it's all fiction, I guess I would have to go better.
The Fallout Wiki would disagree with your take on fiction, I tell you, but we thank them, and if anything was wrong, you can blame them. Fallout Season 2, Episode 5, The Wrangler. Dan, you've got initial rating on this.
I gave this one a 7-7. I think the last three episodes have all been similar in range and quality and story. We had some interesting plot reveals. It didn't have maybe the charm of the Thaddeus episode, but it maybe dropped a little from the previous two, but I still thought it was an overall strong episode. So I'm going 7.7. How about yourself?
I'm gonna go 8-1. I'm not saying that it's my favorite, but I think it was maybe the more complete of the three. Maybe not as many action set pieces for you, but just quality of what they were putting on the table, I thought was as good as any of them. So yeah, I've got it an 8.1. Also, big news, your mom's movie is coming out tonight. Are you gonna see it this weekend?
Oh, geez, I wasn't invited to the premiere.
Yeah, the Bone Temple, for those of you keeping score at home, out this weekend. So that'll be big on the box chart, office charts this week. So that's all the research I've got in
See,
before
and
this
I thought it
episode.
was your ex-girlfriend, one of the Satans, was where Bones went to die.
They probably did. At least mine did. So we start with death claws in this episode. By the way, Tom under the weather today, throwing up at work, and Edelyn just DMP, but she did catch up at least as of last week. So she is through 4. I don't know when she'll get to 5, but she is alive. I've seen her with my own 2 eyes, but it is just me and Dan this evening. We start with these death claws. I think Lucy, kind of where we left off last episode, Lucy says something like asking him if he has any more drugs, and the ghouls, I don't, no, I don't have any more drugs. She asks if he has a rocket launcher, I think, or unless she has a rocket launcher in her bag. I was glad that see dog meat get out of there. What were your kind of thoughts on this open? Not a lot of action here, but a lot of action alluded to, maybe. What did you think of the death clause early?
I was curious as the last season left us, or the last season, the last episode left us as a cliffhanger, how they were going to write themselves out of it. And I don't know that I wanted to see a prolonged Deathclaw battle or it take up a big chunk of this episode. So I was kind of happy that, we were introduced to them. Obviously, the Deathclaws seem pretty hard to defeat, but they got out of there and we got on with the episode and moving along. I think that was a good move.
Yeah, kind of interesting. We've got grenades in back-to-back seasons. Uncle Murray must have gave the ghoul his Santa's sleigh of grenades. And we've also had Ronnie's in 2 out of 3 shows. Ronnie's that I don't like. I forgot to mention that last episode, but
Put that on the board.
so the grenades were used to kind of get them out of this thing. Kind of a cool Las Vegas Fallout screen. Do you think the Gomorrah, obviously it's a reference to like Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's got ladies on it, but would you say, is this the dunes, the Aladdin, the sands? If you had to pin it onto one of these, I would think it would be one of the
So just
3.
from the lettering itself, I thought Sahara.
Oh, okay. So we're hitting all the deserty
Yeah,
regions.
that's what I went with. You guys mentioned, or Edelyn mentioned the landmark being a likeness to, what is it, the Lucky 38?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Not being a game player, and I don't know if Tom would have any insight to this, but to me it looks like the inside of the roulette wheel.
Okay.
And a roulette layout has 36 numbers plus the zero and the double zero.
I actually was wondering that last time, but I didn't want to sound stupid. But I was going to ask if it's like the non lucky numbers, but I didn't know how many numbers were on a roulette wheel. But that was my guess. So good to know that wasn't too
I mean,
far off
it
there.
backs up. I don't know that it's right, but that's my.
And I forgot about double zero. Like I would, the odds of you, going 0 up, tits up on the thing are doubled that way. So I wasn't thinking that. Not a fan of roulette. I think I lost like 17 of 21 spins, red or black, on my birthday, 22nd birthday. And that was about it for the roulette wheel for me.
Geez, I don't enjoy playing it, but it was my favorite game when I dealt.
Okay. Yeah, not a lot of pressure there, I assume. So that's
There is some fun technique, and the math keeps you on your toes more than a lot of other games.
gotcha, gotcha. At first, she doesn't know the name of them, so Lucy calls them these lizard monster bull things. Lizards are a reptile, Dan. She does. I do think it's funny that even though she's, it's, Lucy gone bad, there's still some funny things. Like she says, she'd ask him something and he'd probably just tell her to shut the fridge up. He does tell the bartender later to quit talking, but you could kind of tell maybe he was getting a little edgy with Lucy here, but he did kind of explain to her that there were these vaults for management. That's where his wife and daughter are. So at first, Dan, this seems like they're getting closer, but in the end, probably turns into being something more sinister than that. He mentions that California is empty, Oregon's empty, all of them are empty, but he never found the one in Vegas. Two kind of questions here. As we're starting, it seems like the group is starting to coalesce. We get a swerve at the end. I know you're a big ghoul guy. How are you feeling early? How do you feel about the late turn?
I don't know. I know you're a Lucy fan, but I'm probably more partial to Ghoul. Like they each have their own motivations, and I think that all along she's only been worth anything to him as a bargaining chip. So, yes, it was somewhat of a swerve, and I don't know that we've 100% landed there because I fully leave it open to be swerved back on that. But I'm not in the Ghoul hate club as others may be. How about yourself?
I'm not necessarily in the ghoul hate club. I definitely, prefer Lucy and girls to ghouls, I'll say. But yeah, I think it's an interesting change to the dynamic. And we didn't get them, we've had that tension with them the whole time, and we didn't get a lot of relief to that tension. But I will say early, or as the last couple episodes have built, seeing them start to maybe be a little more on the same page was an interesting change. I mean, it can't just be like, him dragging her along the whole way per se. I mean, it's mostly been that, but it seemed like things were turning, and he had a relationship with his daughter. He's somebody that's been around a long time. So I'm assuming if and when they do, I do agree that this will go back the other, it'll swing the other way at some point, or it should. There's some interesting things about it. We can get into it more as we go, but we see her more eager to go in there and mix it up with the death clause, why she's still kind of high and she's running out of drugs. He explains they're called death claws. What did you think of the guy? Do I understand this right? It was like a beat me up for bottle cap sign. So he like wanted people to beat him up and he'd give them money. Is that what was going on? Or you
Oh,
beat
I
him up
thought he
and
was more
you
a
give him?
panhandler.
Okay. I was thinking he wanted to be beat and he would give you bottle caps to beat him. But I guess like you give him bottle caps to beat him.
So I
Probably.
took it. And Lucy was very polite with the, oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So that was good. It's called Addictol, Dan, or Addictol as I wrote it
You've got one of
out.
those in your bedroom, don't you?
Yeah, your mom is fond of it. So this is like an inhaler that makes you throw up all the drugs out of you? Is this what it was?
Yeah, it seems like a plot convenience quick cure, which they seem to have a couple of those types of things in the show.
Yeah, and like the video games have stim packs, and so you kind of, I can chalk it up to something like that. It plays on this field. The ghoul's getting whiskey from old Shotgun Jeff. What did you make of Shotgun Jeff, Dan?
I didn't really hover too long around Shotgun Jeff. Was there something
He
great? Like I
he
was
went
paying more
in
attention to the posters in the background.
he went in on as long as the lizards don't tax him. He wasn't really caring about, NCR legions, robots. Don't try to charge me, lizard. Don't try to charge me taxes, lizard, I think he said. And he said big whoop, which was in the episode description. But yeah, and the ghoul was kind of a little nasty to him. Anything to add there? Anything on your
No, just that some of the
signs?
posters in the
Okay.
background were interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like old Vegas jazzy, right? Is that what it was going for? Or
Yeah, there was one that said Max's America's Magician.
okay, yeah, I did see that, and I was gonna say like Mac. I already said it in an episode before. How many of these can we run into each
I
other?
was going to
Max
come
and
back
Max
to
X's. Yeah, that was
like,
one
could
thing I
this be
just.
Mac's son, like a new reincarnation of him or something? I don't know.
And also, we have to think about your buddy the Shocker. All different things that come to mind when you see
He would fit
magicians.
right into the scene.
He definitely would. I thought it was funny that West Tech was on the southeast of the map. But we got this, old timey movie reel. There's like an MGAT or something company in the Northwest, Robco in the Northeast, and then Vault Tech was West, was kind of how that laid out. Anything there?
No, geography lord dialed in, but I just took it all at face value.
I'll pick up the slack for you. Yeah, the main thing that jumped out to me right away was West Tech in Florida. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So Hank Cooper and his wife kind of all come into Vegas together. Cooper says he's going to call his agent. Hank seems to have the cold fusion, Prince Albert in a can gimmick on his wrist, some sort of mini briefcase he's trucking around. Your buddy Mold Diver that does this like, get smart exchange with Cooper where he tells her to, she tells him to check his change drawer, his coin purse, if you will. He basically he takes this position that he's not going to do her dirty work, that killing somebody in battle is different than just killing someone, but he will stop this cold fusion from happening. I guess he's or she's of the opinion that if Robert House gets the cold fusion, that he's going to set off the bombs. Is that what we think's going to happen according to her here?
That seems to be the prevailing theory that she uses here.
Anything from you on that?
No, but just as the episode goes on, I hope we get the chance to discuss this. They build the mystery here of who really dropped the bomb. And this is like
Yes.
one hint at it. And it seems like there's a couple different theories out there.
Okay, and I haven't seen any of the theories, but I mean, I certainly have one or two from what we've seen here. It was a little confusing that first episode because you saw the guy on TV that looked a little different, and you saw the other guy, and I think we all kind of knew what was going on. Tom really spelled it out in one of our episodes, but you know, there's this fake Robco guy again, and so you're kind of registering what's going on here because we've obviously what we think is the real Robert House, but in that first episode you see the mayor video and the different Robert House, and like in my brain I was still kind of trying to like piece that together. We get some Watchmen protesters in front of the Lucky 38. We get the you can't laterally dictate U.S. policy from your boy Rep Walsh, who gets like pushed over by a strong arm. What did you make of the return of your buddy Representative Welsh?
I thought that she was just a one episode cameo. So the fact that she's reprising her role here, I found interesting. And that leads me to believe she's got a bigger role in everything going on. And I am a sucker for her line of logic.
She might be the only nuker in the building, perhaps. This could be a stumble through and press the button. We find out that the 38 is a Vault Tech hotel, I guess, and they've got the Cooper Howard standee. He kind of helps her up and tells her to keep at it. What have you made of his wife's villain turn of sorts? I mean, last episode, or last season, it seemed like she was in on it on the end, but it seemed like maybe Kyle McClanahan or Hank McLaren or mix all their names together and they want, peach cobbler or something and a cup of coffee. But it seemed like last season he was kind of revealed as the big bad at the end, but it feels like now they're teasing us that she's even maybe worse than we thought she was. Like, I knew she was in on it, but I thought she more had her family in mind last season, and now it's starting to look like maybe she's a string puller. Any thoughts on how this part of it's playing out, at least?
So I had that takeaway. She might not have been the biggest of the bads, but she definitely, like when she met with all those executives, the plan that she put forth was about as nefarious as it gets. And she's definitely at odds with Cooper from a morality standpoint. So, in a very black and white world, literally, that labels her as something of a villain. So it's still checking out for me. I haven't seen her go from heel turn to the hero.
I guess because it was like so late in last season, I just don't remind disliking her as much. Like I know, something went sideways with her, but I didn't really have any feelings towards it other than, I still felt she probably had her family's interests at heart and she was just trying to like maneuver herself into this world. And, we'll talk about it more as we get on, but it's like this episode was more like maybe she's leading versus just trying to find her place in some of this direction, which I get what you're saying about her at the meeting coming up with that kind of plan. But, I didn't know, is this something her and Hank have talked about? And was this, was Bud inspiring some of this? I didn't know what direction it was all coming from. And I don't think it's totally going to be this, but you talked about who pressed the button or who led this charge. I think they're trying to steer us towards her, but they also are saying there's maybe another mystery person at the table, which is probably
Yeah.
where it will land more than her. But, is that kind of your feel?
Yeah, that starts to sniff out some of my theories in like a broad sense right there.
He follows Hank upstairs. He gets interrupted, Cooper, by the fake Robert House. This is kind of the reveal of Mr. House wants to see you. I mean, we kind of knew, but if in case you didn't get it.
I was actually thankful to Tom for pointing that out because the first time around, I didn't even really track who the guy on TV was, but just knowing that Justin Theroux wasn't in the first season, this was a good way to kind of shoehorn him in as the guy
Yeah,
behind the guy.
I was wondering about that too, and that makes a lot of more sense in that regard. We got Victor the robot, who we saw later, or later in time, but earlier in the season. And so I don't know if that's the last of their meetings or if they've had more meetings since then, but here's one of them. It seems like Robert House kind of has almost like the Elvis suite at the top of the hotel kind of deal going on.
2 out of 3 shows with an Elvis suite.
Here we go. And like Cooper is like from the toilet and he's, something like, sorry, I was eager to meet you. But, and he suggests that he came to Vegas to kill him. And, we're going to get more from there. Any thoughts on the suite or anything else here?
They did a good job of representing what you would expect that place to look like. And this is some interesting light for me into House as you start to learn how he's like a mathematical savant, or at least trying to predict outcomes. And you see him watching over all the gambling operation and put in that context, I thought was interesting. I was kind of surprised. I figured Cooper knew who he was in the bathroom
Yeah.
because we as an
Yeah.
audience, knew, but
Yeah, I think because he used that doppelganger, it kind of makes sense. And, Robert House, a big Moneyball guy who knew, he's probably really thrilled about the A's coming to Vegas. We get the return of your Snake Oil Salesman. You were asking, clamoring for him, I feel like, in the last episode or two. Is he not Chris Elliott?
you asked that last season.
He's Chris Elliott. Like, no
But
one will
what was
convince
his
me
thing? Wasn't
otherwise.
he like the chicken diddler or something like that?
I mean, he's a robot diddler this episode. I think and maybe that's what the reference was we get later, but he's getting radio roached and are those daisies, Dan? How well do you know your flowers? What kind of desert
Not
flower
well
would you
enough to
call
be
that?
able to identify whatever that was.
I pegged it as a daisy, but I don't even know really what a daisy is. He's dating a robot. He talks about how he was like filling his voids on the road or something and apologizing. And the robot is not even a conversational robot. She just says both active and reporting for duty or something. And he's, oh, me too, or something. And then that is when Hank comes in and he says, a looky loo, go and watch from the shrub like a civilized pervert. He puts the chip in his head eventually. I think he just knocks him out with a shovel or something first. But as we get the scene where Hank's putting the chip in, we see the chambers for the wife and the daughter. So I'm glad at least that's progressing because that's something I didn't want to have hang forever. Go ahead, Dan.
So I guess the first thing, you've danced around it, but I just really want to ask the question. We know Ghoul's been looking for a vault in New Vegas. We've
Yeah.
got the landmark in a different timeline that's like a vault tech property. So are we led to believe that the vault is directly under the Lucky 38?
They kind of hinted at being in Gamora. Maybe that was the house, the Robco. Maybe that was his technology. Or I guess the Lucky 38's supposed to be his, but he's Robco. So that wouldn't be at the Lucky 38. So I don't
But
know.
they had the cardboard stand-up of Coop in front of it. So,
Yeah, I was thinking it was more at the Gamora because that's where they were trying to get to, it seemed. But yeah, not super clear on that. Is but if I
okay.
but I would guess if you're like gun to my head, I would guess it's under the Gamora, but I don't really know.
Okay.
But
And
it
then
would
just the reveal of actually seeing the cryogenic chambers with Coop's wife and Janie. I mean, that at least kind of answered a question. They seem to be doing a good job in these couple episodes of they answer a question and then you're left with three more questions. So that's a good way for a show to drive me forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know, I think certainly at least we're getting a 1-for-1 exchange. They're handing us rope and letting the line out at minimum. He asks this guy if he'd like to have everything he has ever done, forgot, or removed. Little eternal sunshine in the spotless mind. Hate to do it to you, Dan, but
Oh,
it's
you always got
here.
to come back to this movie I'm never
It's
gonna see.
it's here. So it kind of, I'll give you another Always Sunny reference. There's an episode where they control Frank's chess moves with a butt plug. And I felt like I couldn't tell if the snake oil salesman was like enjoying this as it went. It seemed like at the end, it was like he was, he's saying no at the end, but sometimes no in this case didn't seem like it meant no, Dan. What were your take on all this?
Maybe you'll have a Simpsons reference to tie it all together for me.
We'll see. Who can say? I don't know what's coming in this series of notes.
And one thing in this exchange that it was somewhat subtle, but I think it was really fun and on the nose, is Hank's turning up the frequency or whatever and stressing out. And we've seen him run this experiment with the same result a million times. And so as you hear the radiation or the vibe going louder and louder, they pan away from the snake oil salesman to the window where we've seen the blood splatter so many times. And so I thought that was a fun way they've trained us to expect the Huey blood splatter, but instead they zag back to the snake oil salesman. And I thought that was a fun little dink on their part.
Yeah, I thought that was a good transition cut. Speaking of good, great transitions, from the window to the wall, Dan, we get the vault dwellers from 31 with our buddy Norm from 33 approaching Vault Tech Corporate, and we do have some fresh blood on the wall there. Any thoughts as we like walk into this? We've got old Janice is still at her desk. I think that's the person we've maybe met before. We end up with Ma June, one of your favorites, I'm sure. Is that her girlfriend?
She seemed new to me. I didn't
Because they
remember the
called her like,
sidekick
I
from
didn't remember
anywhere.
that either, but like later called her like baby or something. I think they might be, and I think if I'm correct from pulling up the Amazon credits, they have not been as good as they used to be. But I think the girlfriend's name might be Barb, but also weird because Cooper's wife was Barbara, and we've got Barb from Stranger Things. Now we've got a Barb. We need more Maximuses. Apparently, they've got a roach farm. They're not big enough to market yet. Thoughts on kind of this portion of it? For Vault Dweller stuff, was this interesting enough for you?
Where it lands is pretty interesting. I wasn't expecting to see Ma June back, much the same as the Chicken Diddler.
Yeah.
So, for people that like might be rusty on season one, they might not have even known that these were reoccurring characters because we haven't seen them in so long.
I agree, and I don't know. I don't remember seeing her in the before episode or not. But if they didn't show it, good way not to tease her. Now, she basically said to Norm that he thought his sister, would have been dead. Now, when she talks about Philly, was this like a new Philly? Were they always on the West Coast? Because like obviously they started in California, right? She didn't go all the way from California to the West Coast, I don't think. I mean,
So I'm
from
pretty sure the
Philly.
settlement of Philly was spelled Filly.
Yeah.
And so it was geographically somewhere in California, but I think it was just named that as just coincidence, some sort of an homage.
Yeah, I was just trying to geography lord it. We get a kind of a slur. She says, "Go home, Volties." And they're very concerned about this roach farm. Not much. I mean, I thought it was good to see her back. It transitions the plot. Not a lot here for me. Anything else from you on this stuff?
No, it moved it along all right.
So we see Lucy at Sunny's Sundries. There's an Addictol price jacking up. He's bought all the EpiPens and jacked up the prices on them. She goes around the back. It gets a little weird because, we see her starting to steal this med. She steals the power fist. Insert joke here. I did think the gimmick where she's ass kicked this guy when he comes upon her, like his
I'm
clothes.
sorry, I just got the joke. She
Okay.
steals the power fist, but your mom usually gives the power fist.
Yeah, I mean, it was a your mom joke, but I wasn't gonna beat it into the ground.
Like your mom does with that power fist.
So, Sunny, speaking of moms, Sunny's clothes don't fit. And she's kind of going through his logic, and he's, and that's not Sunny dead behind me. And he's no, and she's in, he tried to rob the place like naked, and, because he calls him a robber, and he's, yeah, like that makes sense. He says, I think lots of people do it, which is rob naked, I guess. So yeah, I just thought this was funny. And as he goes through this, he's gonna pull the gun, and Lucy's, "Don't do this. I'm gonna have to maim you." So she shoots him, which we know she shot ghouls earlier, and she was fine with that. But now she's shooting a human. Obviously, this was in defense of sorts. A new person walks in, and she says, "Who are you?" And she says, "I don't know." Now, what I thought was interesting here, to me, it looked like there was a grenade launcher behind that body when he fell, the fake Sunny. You didn't see
Okay.
all of it. I saw what I thought was an interesting barrel. I went back. They don't show a lot of it. She obviously opts for the power fist, but we got the grenade launcher call out earlier, or rocket launcher, or whatever it was. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. What was any other takes besides your mom jokes from this thing?
Just the I'm trying to track, but they weren't too clear. So the guy that was behind the counter came in naked, beat up Sonny, stole his clothes, and was just impersonating him as a guy working in the store.
I don't know if he was naked or not, but he definitely took Sonny's clothes because none of them fit him. It would be funnier, I guess, if he did it naked, if his logic is like everybody does it. But
And
yeah, I
then
mean,
I was under the impression that the other woman that came in, like maybe worked there too.
okay,
Uh,
I thought maybe yeah, I didn't know if she knew the robber or who she was in this story exactly. Like at first, I think you're concerned that this is going to mess Lucy up somehow, and they don't really go anywhere with it, which is fine, I guess. We all move on with our lives, but
yeah, like you're anticipating, like, is Lucy going to shoot her now or to cover the story or something like that? But yeah, really nothing in the end.
she's basically saying she doesn't know who she is anymore, is what we're closing this out with. Robert House, is saying their destinies are mathematically intertwined. We don't really get it yet till he explains it later here. I thought it was kind of a weird thing, like Cooper just like childishly being like, I don't want to go down the stairs. Tell me from here. It's just, I didn't really get that part. He asked the fake Robert House how long he's been doing it. He said like 10 years, like it's a living, not really, but that version of that. So we find out that House was listening to him on the software. He had access to the Vault Tech armor and was spying on,
The Alaskan
Cooper.
battle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he talks about the demon in the snow connected to the future of this great nation and his wife, some sort of something here. We later find out that basically the end of the world was going to be his daughter's birthday, which I think is when it is, right? Or no, she's at somebody else's birthday party. He is
Yeah.
at somebody else's birthday party. So who knows when that is at this point? Probably the month away or whatever. But it gets pushed out a month because of the whatever this event is of him coming to Vegas. Is that kind of what you got from all this?
Yeah, that somehow Cooper was going to affect it. And there's this question of, so who really dropped the bombs? Because up to this episode, I thought it was his wife, based on
He
what we'd seen in the last season. And now you're wondering, was House involved? And he's claiming that he doesn't, but he's got this whole missile defense thing so that he's going to be protected no matter what, as long as he can see it coming. And,
I
we're kind of really left to wonder. He mentions a third party, which I have a theory on that, and it kind of ties into the death clause.
he talks about being the best at what we do, what I do, or I know everything, but then later he doesn't know everything. He basically talks about like how he takes parts of all these companies and acquires everything, I think, like the cold fusion, he did the software on the robots, but then, or the mech suits, but then he could listen in on them. So I don't know what that's all about yet. I'm sure more of that. And he says, despite what we both heard in that meeting, and he's like, you said, everything. And he can predict future events, but he doesn't know everything. So we get the date change mentioned. He mentions variables being irksome. He talks about the bombs not being dropped by him or any of those idiots at the meeting. So I thought that was kind of interesting how he was portraying them. And he says, to your point, another player at the table, maybe the demon in the snow there. The house always wins. What if I'm not the house? What if it's someone else? So what do you think in here? Any thoughts on this third party, I guess?
I've got like a working theory that the Death Claw development, like you mentioned, it was like American military. And I think it might have been West Tech at one of these government labs that Robert Maxon saw to start the whole Brotherhood with those like genetic engineering experiments. And I think I saw in the lore that before he worked at Vault Tech, Bud Askins worked at West Tech.
And that might have got mentioned season one, but I don't know when they were doing like, because the scene with his like mech suits and him kept trying to talk to Cooper or whatever. Maybe it came up, who knows? But
I think there was some back and forth, or at the cocktail party or something like that, when Bud was hitting up Coop. So I think maybe the third party is a jilted Bud Askins or the other player at the table that I think he's going to be revealed to be like the true bad because we've also got the Buds running around with the other scene that we're going to get to at Vaultec.
when we're led to believe that his brain is in that jar, but that would make sense if it really wasn't, or maybe it's a robot duplicate of Bud's running or Bud running around out there. Who knows? We got kind of, we get more of it later, but it's tough to make of it early. But we get the kind of this match cut with Cooper drinking, but it's like he's just like pouring it all over his face. I didn't know what the was going on, but kind of interesting there. We get Norm, and he's kind of talking to Claudia, like Claudia is the one that talked about the bridge last episode. Now, as we see this develop, was she like a honeypot here? Was she working with Ronnie on this? What do you think was happening here?
Wondering that. It could easily be interpreted that way, but I'm choosing to believe that she was genuine to the line that she was giving Norm. I don't
I
know.
I would have been. I really watched her when she made that room transition, though. Looked like a weird face. Looked like she kind of made eye contact with Ronnie hiding in the corner. So I took her pretty innocent, but on my second pass, to me, she looked a little fishy. But she apparently, and I don't know how you can trust anyone with a cat named Puppy to begin with. Another question for you. We're kind of seeing them try to like man up Norm a little this season. Who has the thicker 5 o'clock mustache shadow, Norm or Dane? I still feel like it's advantage Dane, but any thoughts there?
Advantage push.
So we kind of get this joke like multiple times from her. Basically, she started this like a week ago. She starts talking about Barbara Howard being Bud's boss here.
Which, yeah, I think that sounds right.
which I guess we knew. I don't know. I thought Bud was her boss initially, but was that what was revealed at the end? I don't know.
I don't know. Bud was kind of a kiss ass whenever we saw him, and he was doing the whole management trainee program. That's
Well,
about as much as I have retained.
Norm, and we will mention we're in the heart of we did a full Stranger Things recap and it Welcome to Derry and Stranger Things season 5. So we didn't quite round the corner on cleaning up the last events into last season. So I don't really know unless they show it to us at the beginning or you remind me either. And I'm sure someone will give us a 1-star review for that on our free podcast. They made it 20
But
minutes into
somebody
one
may give
episode.
us a 5-star review.
Hey, or someone might just be a cool guy, like cool guy Thad or whatever, and say, "Hey, you guys missed this," and we'll say, "Yeah, we did." And imagine how that exchange goes. But I digress. I think Claudia might have set him up. We found out Norm's never even had a drink before. He gets into Barb's computer and sees the FEV file on Barb's computer. But it seems to be missing like other files, maybe, but definitely the FEV. This is, you mentioned it from theories. Tom mentioned it from the game, but this is the first we've seen this pop up on the show. Any other comment there?
No, I like that they delivered on what I was speculating about. It that felt good, and I like being on the right trail.
Norm not dead at the end? Like he choked him and then we got a breath at the end. Did they call in Farrell us, Dan?
I was gonna ask what percent of him is like on the pie chart of is Norm dead or alive? And I don't know that I registered a breath. Like for me, there was only a 4% chance that he was dead.
I was going to
And
say 5% chance he's dead, but he should be dead. And I will say, kind of funnily, I actually fell asleep right around here last night. And as I was falling asleep, I was like, did they kill him? Good for them. And I went to sleep like thinking maybe he did die, I guess.
like if who's the girl's name? The honeypot not Janice.
Claudia.
Claudia. If they would have made her more likable as a handoff to carry the story forward, I might believe it. But Norm's still trying to find Lucy. That's got to come back into play at some point. And I don't really see anybody else being a stand-in for his opposition to Reggie or whoever Bud's main assistant is there.
Yeah, no, I agree. But as we mentioned, we just got done watching a show infamous for not killing people. It would have been nice to see a big change in the board here.
Yeah.
But alas, no go. So Lucy's barfing in this hotel or in the street, and then as she gets into the hotel, the ghoul kind of gets her to the window or yells at her to go to the window, but then pats her as she's done. It's the least I can do. And then you kind of see the turn with our cleaned up snake oil salesman. He's still got bags of plenty under his eye, but he's been cleaned up a little bit. And they mentioned that they want Lucy back in her. Now, at first I thought maybe the underground facility, but I think he wants her returned to the vault, right? Is that what you took it
I
as?
think he wants her to go all the way back to Vault 33.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it because of what he's doing in the underground facility. He wants her in a safe place, but maybe also a more controlled place. Because if he didn't want her controlled, why couldn't she just be in the underground facility with her dad? Yeah, that's how I took it. The deal is basically Lucy for, the ghoul's family who is allegedly in stasis. Now, we saw their pods and maybe the daughter in there. Did we see both of them in there or?
I just saw the name placards.
So, I mean, I think that's a possibility that they're not in pod is always out there.
I mean, yeah, there could be a where we're led to believe that they're just can be unfrozen, but really they were unfrozen 20 years ago and running wild.
Let it go, Dan. So, yeah, we basically get this reveal from the ghoul that you were my bargaining chip, and he shoots her with a dart. I think it's interesting we see Lucy repeatedly try to shake off this dart. He says, when you wake up, you'll be home, family's a thing. So we see the montage of Cooper getting hammered. He's riding the missile at some point, as the ladies say. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anything from his drunken stupor. I think that was maybe a little overplayed, but go ahead.
It was wild, but I think it does show at least that the ghoul like is wrestling with this decision and the morality of it, that there is some humanity deep down in there, which I think we've seen illustrated other ways. They're trying to make it a difficult heel turn for him.
And to me, I think maybe they're trying to be like, this is how somebody like this that seems to be so innocent could turn into the ghoul. You know, I just could have done without the, just get it in the mouth, Cooper, for crying out loud. Be a professional, act like you've been here before. So Lucy basically gets her power fist and shoots him out of the hotel, and we see him getting impaled towards the end. Now, once again, we've seen the ghoul come back from a mini thing, so I'm going to assume the ghoul is still around. But for a minute, I was like, would they do the thing? That would be pretty crazy. But
Would they Last of Us season two him?
I mean, you know, it was so well received last season. I hate to say this, but I think this show's got a more diverse group of characters it could lean into, at least. Like in Last of Us, there were like two characters but that they had established. But here we are.
That's why the show is called Last of Us. They're just killing off any decent character.
I think that's kind of it. So, yeah, that happens, and we get Cooper to his wife. We need to talk. And then Lucy and her dad, My Little Sugar Bomb, which we think is the cereal. And the song is "You Always Hurt the One You Love." It seemed like you're a big into credit lord now. It seemed like that video at the end was like kind of like the virtual tour of the destroyed Gamera. Is that what you took it of, or Gamora? I'm sorry, I keep calling it.
You're getting your Japanese sci-fi mixed in with your fake futuristic Vegas casinos.
My Marvel
Yeah, it did
universes.
seem like it was from the shell of the blown out casino. I don't know that I really pegged anything super interesting or noteworthy. I'm sure Tom would have some game references from it, but I do the style that they do those closing credits in, so it's always appealing to the eye.
Yeah, and I would say last week I was looking forward to the episode, but I was still a little gun shy from how we started. As we had one good episode, are we going to get two? You know, we've turned two into three. You know, I'm looking forward to the last three episodes of this season, which, you know, we've got lucky mostly. I mean, we have our critical points of some shows, but you know, more or less, you know, regardless of how, I think Stranger Things was a disappointment for you. Still a good show. I think we both enjoyed it. Welcome to Derry. And this season's turned out not to be a fest, which is nice.
And I mean, I liked season one of this probably more than you did, but after the first two episodes, it was probably starting out like Boys season four, where it's I don't know how we're gonna get through this. Thanks a lot, Amazon, for another one.
Yeah, no, I was feeling the weight of the boys' universe on my heavy hosting shoulders. But I will say, I really liked the first half of last season, you know, and I liked all the initial vault stuff with Lucy, and I liked most of the ghoul stuff. But the other stuff's a little sketchy. We're still kind of there. I mean, the Lucy and ghoul stuff is still the strongest this show has to offer, but the rest isn't as dog as it was and as it started out, to where they're pulling some interesting threads together.
Yeah, and I think actually through the timeline jumps, I think some of that old story is where the threads are really maybe connecting Death Claws to the Brotherhood to Robco to Vault Tech. And I felt in the first season, in the finale, they did a really good job of surprising you, telling a good story, and bringing it all together. And it might
Yeah,
be tracking that way. I hope it is.
I thought the old stuff was good. I thought the new stuff with her zombie mom and Moldaver, and you know, there were some strengths and weaknesses there. But to your point, I think last season the flashbacks were a strong part of the show. The ghoul and Lucy, you know, and then this season we started out with flashbacks we had already seen.
Yeah.
And so it was like that wasn't as valuable now that they've kind of got back into the groove. And you know, editing and re-listening to some of our episodes now, being out of Stranger Things, hopefully we'll be a little quicker on the trigger here as we go. But you know, listening back to what he said earlier in the season, I did not have time to look it up because I'm a host. Give us a 1-star review. But
Stop
see,
saying that. Give us a 4-star review.
Give us a 5 star. I'm a 5 star man, damn it. But yeah, I just think, the show has turned around and I'm enjoying where we're going. And oh, maybe they did have a camera change episode 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5. Because certainly 3, 4, 5 has not felt anything like 2. You could sell me on 1, but 2 was awful.
Yeah, like I posited when we started episode 3, is there a completely new writer and director behind this?
Yeah, and that's what I
Um,
want to give you some credit of is maybe there were some different influences because certainly these last 3 were better than 2. You, like I said, you could talk me into 1 being the same person, but 2 feels very different. I don't know, script to page where it came from, but yeah, very happy with this. Anything else as we wrap up and we're headed to the Seven Kingdoms on Sunday, Dan? How about that?
so I'm going into Seven Kingdoms feeling like I haven't done my homework. So I'm going to be going into this without really having read articles, other than knowing we're somewhere between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, not really knowing who the main characters are or how they tie into the universe. I'm a fresh babe.
Yeah, I think me too. You had a little bit of House of Dragon back history or something, didn't you? Or more than I did, certainly.
I might have at one point, and now it's just fallen out of my short-term memory.
But I guess on this, I mean, what we know is there was this short story by George R. not finish any books, that, was like Duncan and Egg, right? And we hear at the North Wall, Aemon, one of the old wall bearers, talk about little Egg when he's dying, which I think was Aegon, his namesake, who it was Duncan and Egg, Aegon, little Egg, that he remembered from when he was a boy or some like that. That's my 2 tie-in notes.
Okay.
And the night's just
I
some random night. I don't know.
see, and I don't even know the names. I thought it was Dunk and Egg.
Okay, and I'll believe that. But Egg
But
is,
I don't even know that.
yeah, that makes sense. Dunk and Egg. But I don't know if Dunk is a northerner or what he is. He's
I think I might have seen, now that we're talking about it, might be brushing some things up. I think he might be distantly related to Brienne of Tarth. I think he might be
okay.
from
Yeah,
Tarth.
I think I heard some BS about that.
And because he's, half ogre size or something like that, just as she was.
We know you love
Um,
a good ogre, Dad.
I barely know her.
Ogre tactics or org tactics or orgy tactics, as I used to know it.
Yeah, oh geez, that's a joke from the days gone by on the old PlayStation Top 10 board.
Yeah, so we are looking forward to Sunday, and we will see you next week for Fallout. Thank you for listening and leaving us these credible, lofty 5 star reviews.
Ding ding, you'll be our favorite listener or viewer.
Listeners, viewers, damn it, lots of them, plural. So yeah, we appreciate the support, and we will be back with more.
See ya. Idly ho, neighborly neighborly.
What's going on, man?
Is it a sign of old age that you are sore from bowling?
Probably,
It's been two
probably.
days, and this is like an athletic activity that fat drunk dudes do, and my quads are like, whoa, slow down on the dance floor.
You got to go easy. You're getting up there.